Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to EekRC. Today on the bench we have the Tamiya Bearhawk. Eek! Now I did a light restoration on this, and as you can see it came out pretty good. I'm going to add some pictures here and maybe a little video of it outside in the sun just to get a little better idea of what it looks like in, better lighting. So for those of you that did not see my previous video, this Bearhawk needed a little bit of help. I bought it from Bai with a group of other RCs and parts, and it did need a little bit of restoration slash, refurbishing, but this is going to be a runner, so there's a few things that I kind of left how they were, because, if I get scratched up and things like that, if I completely replace a lot of the plastics, I'm not going to want to run it. So basically I cleaned it up, I refurbished what I had to refurbish, and this is the result. I added some, my own little touches. You guys know I like to tinker and mess around with things and try to make them a little bit better. So as you can see, these wheels originally were yellow, and they were painted yellow. So they used like a really strong paint. I'm not sure exactly what they used, but it was really thick and hard to get off. I did soak them in Super Clean. That did not do it, believe it or not. Super Clean is actually really strong and does usually remove paint. What I had to do was I used Easy Off. Yes, the oven cleaner Easy Off. And that stuff is great. It basically just removes layers and layers of old paint. And the paint was probably on here from 1991 when this original Bearhawk came out. So it was not easy to get the paint off of these, and it did take multiple rounds of spraying it on and scraping it off. And, eventually I got to the point where they are right now, which they came out really, really good. They were not even scratched up on the outside. So whoever had this, I don't even think they ran it that much. So I did put some different tires on the front. These are Schumacher's, and I actually like the pattern on here. They really do grip well when you're driving it off-road, which is what I plan on doing with this. The rear tires, these are still available to buy. So I do have, I did have an extra set. I usually buy them in groups of at least 2 or 3. These are also on the Madcap, so I have an extra set. Also, as you can see, the shocks are no longer red friction shocks. These are the black CVAs that came from a Blitzer Beetle slash Stadium Thunder, Stadium Blitzer, and this is the same chassis, same front and rear end, so they're perfect for it. But I do like the black on here. I wasn't a huge fan of the red friction shocks. Not because they're friction shocks, but honestly, the way they looked, I didn't really care for it, even though it's got, some other red parts on it. But I didn't like the red friction shocks. I think it looks way better. It makes the body stand out more and the wheels stand out more, so your eyes are not drawn towards those, ugly friction shocks. So yeah, so it is way better as far as the suspension goes now. All right, turning it around to the back here, as you can see, I have a vintage RX 540 VZ motor in here, the Technigold motor. This was barely run. Like the brushes and everything are like new. Really love this motor. It's super smooth. I did go with a 15 tooth pinion, which is the lowest here. They give you 2 options. That it's got preset holes, so they do give you an option for a 15 or a 17 tooth. I went with the 15. I did put a steel pinion here. I don't like the soft aluminum ones that Tamiya gives you, and that kind of ends up ruining the gearbox sometimes with that like aluminum stuff that flakes off inside. I also painted these flat black. As you can see on both sides, it's kind of like a I guess you want to call it like an exhaust vent. You've seen these before on Tamiya cars, and I thought that kind of looked neat. Add a little more detail to the kit, and I also added this like race car netting to it. Not that you would ever have netting on the front, but I thought it was kind of cool, and I like it better than having nothing in there. I'm really not a fan. It kind of makes it look more toy grade when this is just open and you can see all the insides. So I thought that was like a nice little touch there also. And you can buy this. It's the same netting that you get with the BBX. So let me take the body off and we'll talk about it a little bit more. All right, so let's get the body off. So as you can see, this is not all original underneath as far as the electronics go. I do have a nice Savox servo in here. I went with a Hobbywing 1060 ESC and my FlySky receiver. And as you can see, this thing came out really, really clean. Now, I did not replace any of the parts. Everything was in good shape. So other than some scratching underneath, this thing is really like new. I did add on the post some rubber bushings here, gaskets, I don't know what you call them. These are the ones that you'd put inside the shocks, because the body does kind of rattle around here, and I wanted to make sure it's quiet. The only thing I want to hear is the gearbox when I'm driving it. Also added a nice little antenna just for that vintage style, and that's basically it. I mean, it came out really good. So let me zoom out here, and I'm just going to show you a few other things. I have the vintage motor, all original, the original manual speed controller. Everything's all cleaned up and in great condition. I have the original vintage shocks, even the original pinion gear, all of the spare parts, and the original vintage tires, which are extremely hard to find and very expensive if you can find a set. So if I ever wanted to turn this back into a shelf queen, or make it all original again, put it back to like its vintage condition, if I ever want to move it on and sell it. So what I normally do is, you know, with things like this, I will make it a runner, which is what I'm doing here. Make it a runner with the reliable modern electronics. And like I said, I can always reverse back. I have all the extra parts to put it back in place the way it was when I got it originally. So I will keep all of these boxed up. But for now, we're going to keep this a little more modern. Now let me put these parts away. So if you want to purchase the netting, this is how it comes, just like this. Now you can, I believe, still buy this from Tamiya. I bought this on eBay because I got a really good deal on it. There's a part number, 4615002. You can add this to any kit, really. And it is pretty durable. I also replaced some of the decals. So I did buy a MCI decal sheet. I didn't like how they kind of had them like going across this way. They didn't really apply the decals correctly. So what I did was the Bearhawks, instead of keeping it one, I cut it in half and placed it here and here. And you know, you see here it says the Browning Bearhawks. And let's see, I did the same on this side, where I cut it and put Browning here and Bearhawks here, kind of like in two separate decals. And it came out pretty good. Now this is the original paint. Even painting the driver figure, they did a really good job. There are decals on the driver figure's helmet. You can't really see them that well in there, but it is kind of cool having the driver figure in there. There's certain kits that I could care less if it has one, but this one, it's so open here that it's kind of cool to see something in there. I almost wish that the driver figure was a little bit bigger, like it was more like a cockpit. And I thought that would look really cool in here, but you know, to me it just went with what they had. I'm sure that's the same driver figure as a lot of the other cars back then. So there's one more thing to talk about here with the Bearhawk. What is a Bearhawk? Does anybody know what a Bearhawk is? Because I started looking. I went online. I'm like, okay, a Bearhawk. It must be some sort of, you know, some type of bird. And so I started looking. I'm like, okay, I don't see anything. The only thing I saw was there is a kit plane that you can build. I guess get the plans for and build. And that is called the Bearhawk. It's the only thing I could find. So if anybody knows what a Bearhawk is besides the plane, let me know. The strange thing is, almost every single Tamiya has a name that makes sense, right? Egress, that's something real. Astute, Avante, even Bigwig, you know, call somebody a Bigwig. Even Madcap, these are all real names. So what's a Bearhawk? Did they just like make that up? Also, look at this logo. What does that look like? I'm going to put, you know, an example up here of what it looks like. It looks exactly like, well, not exactly like, but it's almost like they took the U.S. Postal Service logo and said, yeah, that looks cool. Let's make something like that. So whose idea was to come up with a name called the Bearhawk? And what does that have to do with a car? I don't know, I thought that was kind of like a weird choice. It's the only one that I can think of that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, there are so many other names out there that are kind of like quirky, even Top Force, they're real words, but this one doesn't make any sense to me. I do have to say, it has one of the coolest driver names that I can think of, Andy Anson Pants. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I didn't remember that until I got the car. I'm like, Andy Anson Pants? I thought that was kind of cool. That's now definitely one of my favorite driver names. All right, so now we talked about the car. There's only one thing left to do, guys. Let's go out and drive it. All right, so here we are outside with the Bearhawk. We're going to check this out. We're at a ball field here. We're just going to run in here and see how it goes. I've been running a little bit. It's a little bit dirty, as you can see already. And, you know, it's kind of like loose dirt and dried up grass. So right now we got a Technigold motor in it, and we have the smallest pinion. I think it's a 15 tooth pinion in here. You can go up to a 17, and this thing can take a lot more power than this. This is pretty mild. can feel the 540 motor getting a little warm. It's not too warm though. It just feels like a typical brushed motor. This thing has been so much fun to work on, so much fun to run. Okay, everyone, leave a comment, like and subscribe, please, if you can. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you all in the next video.